Our next subject of discussion concerns the white space around the edges of the pages. Now, if I look up at the ruler at the top here, I can see roughly 1.25 inches on the left side, another 1.25 inches on the right side. It's a little bit tough to tell what's happening at the top and the bottom of the page. When I click in the page, I should also be able to see a ruler at the side. So by the gray space on the ruler, it looks like I've got 1 inch of margin at the top and 1 inch of margin at the bottom of the page. So 1.25 inches left and right, inch top and bottom. Maybe I would like to change that. Maybe, for example, I have one of those cool printers that'll print on both sides of the paper, and I would like to leave a little bit of extra space to put in staples or 3-ring binder holes or something like that on the inside of each page. And then as I print on the back side of the page, I still want the 3-ring binder holders on the inside of the page. And what that means is it's on the left side of the front of the page and the right side of the back of the page. And I shouldn't still be excited all these years later about having a printer that prints both sides of the page, but I love mine. I do a lot of printing, and not having to print one side of the page all the time or put in half the pages and then flip them over and print the other half is what I used to have to do. Man, I'm a happy camper now with a 2-sided printer. So let's talk about setting up the white space, the margins, for a 2-sided printer here for a moment. So to get to the margins, I'm going to go up to the Layout command tab to produce the layout ribbon, and then over here at the left-hand side is a button about margins. So this is talking about the white space at the side and top and bottom of a page. Now, why do they do that? Why do they bother putting white space around the edges? Well, it turns out that if you have really long lines that go very near the edges of the page, it's easier for your eyes to get lost reading across those longer lines. And hardly anybody has a printer that will print right to the edge of the page anyway, so you're going to have some white space in there somehow. You might as well learn to control what that does. So I'm going to go up here and click the pull-down arrow for the margins, and you will see that there are several presets. So we've got the 1/2 inch at the top, bottom, and left and right. We have something called moderate. We have something called wide. Mirrored, we're going to talk about in a minute. You'll notice one of them has kind of a blue box down here. It is the 2003 default, and you may remember that when we saw that thing about updating the file format, I had mentioned that this did come from a 2003 file, so that's why it has 1 inch at the top and the bottom and 1.25 inches on left and right. But if I want to change those, then I just need to move a little bit farther down here. So there's a scrollable list up here, and then down way at the bottom there's one that says Custom Margins. I'm going to click on that. And that opens up this dialog window. You can see its title says Page Setup, and among other things, it's got information about the margins, top, bottom, left and right, and etc. So why don't you join me in that window for just a moment? That is, put the video on pause, and to be able to see that layout window for the margins, you're going to go up here and click on the Layout command tab, which produces the layout ribbon, and then over here at the left side, click the pull-down arrow for the margins, and then click on Custom Margins, and your screen should look like mine. So put the video on pause for just a moment and catch up with me into the page setup window to talk about margins. So you can see there aren't just 4 boxes here, top, bottom, left, and right. There's also something called gutter and gutter position. Very often the gutter is used to temporarily increase margins for maybe 3-ring binders. Or you can just increase the left margin for those things, as long as you're just going to be printing on one side of the page. But if I'm going to be printing on both sides of the page, it's going to take a little trick. It won't be called the left side, and you'll see that here in a moment. So I'm noticing down here towards the bottom of this window, there's a little list box that says Apply to Whole Document. Right now, that's what I want to do, apply to the whole document with whatever I set up. And then I've also got a thing here that says Multiple Pages. And as I click on that pull-down arrow, I can say, well, I'm going to print 2 pages on each sheet and then fold it like a booklet. In fact, there's a slightly different thing called book fold. And then I would like to introduce this idea of mirrored margins. Now, right now it says you got a left margin and a right margin. Watch what happens if I say mirror margins. Here I see a little sample of 2 pages where I'm going to be printing on both sides of the page. And now you notice it doesn't say left and right. It says inside and outside. So if, for example, I set these up to be 1 inch on the top and the bottom and the inside and the outside, then this is a little sample of what it's going to look like. The white space on the inside and outside edges are the same. Now, what about my 3-ring binder? Well, I could add a gutter here and put the gutter, notice it says left, it doesn't really say inside, or the way I'll usually do it is I'll just increase the inside margin a little bit. So I'm going to change my inside margin from 1 inch, I'm going to click and I'm going to make it maybe 1.25 inches on the inside. And then if I click on some other box, it's kind of subtle, but notice now the inside margin in the sample box is ever so slightly wider than the outside margin in the sample box here. So the front page would be on this side, this would be a page 1, and then a page 2 and 3, 4 and 5. So my even numbered pages would be on the left, my odd numbered pages would be on the right, my cover page would be one of the right side pages. So that's the idea of mirrored margins. And so maybe I want to make the top margin a little bigger or a little smaller. This is a box where you can do that. Bottom margin as well. All I've done is increase the inside margin and changed it to mirrored margins. I did them in the other direction there, actually. I did the mirrored margins first. So instead of saying left and right, it now says inside and outside. And change that inside margin to 1.25 inches. And when you click on OK, you will see as you scroll up and down here, here's my odd numbered page. And then my even numbered page, if I can zoom out a little bit here, you can see they are not starting at the same indentation. That's because my odd numbered pages have the 1.25 inches, my even numbered pages have the inch margin. So you can actually see that in action right now. So I'd like you to put the video on pause and go catch up with me. Again, I went to the margins pull-down arrow, went to custom margins, changed them from normal to mirrored margins, and increased the inside margin to 1.25 inches, please.